In this episode of My Mic Sounds Nice, we discuss how two police officers were recently killed while working in New York City and the overwhelming response. We'll get into the impact on the city and the nation. How many people would volunteer to perform at the Super Bowl? Is that a crazy request from a multi-billion-dollar business? And we'll wind things up with the Robinson Report.
Welcome to My Mic Sounds Nice, a freestyle conversation about relationships, health, and culture. I am one of your hosts, Timothy, always glad to be with you in the building.
Welcome to My Mic Sounds Nice. My name is Kevin, aka Reggie Jacks. Thank you for joining us today.
My mic sounds nice. This is Aaron from Long Island, the Roubaix rider, who ain't riding anything because I'm stuck in a 12 to 18-inch snowstorm.
There was a time that would not stop us, but that was before our mics sounded nice.
Right.
Now we are afraid of snow and ice.
I look outside and all I think is, I got to clean off the car.
Yeah.
Got to clean off the driveway.
You know what I'm saying?
I see work when I look out the window.
Yeah. You know you're getting older in season when you pay attention to wind chills in real fields.
No doubt.
Was that even part of the weather when we was growing up? We went outside and we just played, but you know.
Because we didn't have to clean up nothing.
I'm thinking
that's why.
This has me thinking me of the first big snowstorm we all had together my freshman year at Howard, and how we went out and we was sledding on the lunch trays down the hill.
Yes, and me playing, I actually broke Pamela's ankle. Shout out to Pam. Thank you for forgiving me. Yeah.
No, what I remember.
Welcome to college.
No, I remember my friends from New Orleans who never seen snow before. That's what I remember. And I just thought that was just amazing.
Like, you gotta get the jacket, man. That jacket's
with the boat shoes and no socks. So
with penny loafers with an actual penny in it.
We digress.
Yes. All right. So, police officers often cite the dangers of their profession. Two police officers were recently killed while working in Harlem, tending to a domestic violence call. 4 officers have been killed nationally in the month of January, the same number as last year. However, that number is up from recent history. What are your thoughts about the events, the reporting, the characterization, and where do we go from here?
Well, I think the first thing is that people retreat into their camps, their liberal or their conservative camps in how they view the situation. You know, where Republicans want to say, oh, this is an example of defund the police and all the negative talk about police, when if you actually look at the numbers, they've been pretty high since 2018. So, and also the amount of guns that have been stolen, those numbers are up. And we've also had new gun laws in America, you know, as far as conceal and carry and things of that nature. So I think while the answer for surface level people would be to point to whatever political side you're on, I think the truth of the matter is we won't know why things have risen for about 10 years. And I suspect it will be a combination of a whole bunch of things. Less respect for the police, more guns on out in the community, new laws, and a pandemic. So,
and this is just anecdotal, but if I'm not mistaken, what took place in New York and what recently took place in Houston were both calls. Right? Like I know New York was domestic violence. I think in Houston it was a call, and then the guy ended up leading the officers on a chase. And first of all, I know for all of us, anyone being killed is something that is deplorable.
Yes.
But we all are aware enough and lived long enough to know that there's going to be a difference in the response to an officer being killed by a citizen versus a citizen being killed by an officer or a citizen being killed by a citizen. We could sit here and debate that till the cows come home, but we all know that response is going to be different. And that's where I know we're going to go in this conversation, because that really is where the fear is. Because it's like, oh, that black or brown man killed that black or brown man. Oh, that's something that's happening in that neighborhood. An officer gets killed, that becomes an indictment on society. That evokes fear. That gets laws changed. It just changes the way you feel and move, so you process it different. Not that that person's life was more valuable than the other person's life.
You know, I find that there was this thread on this app Nextdoor that's kind of near me, and people were offering condolences to the police officers. And I was reading through the thread because sometimes I find different things that are happening in the neighborhood. And it turned to, this is because of the leftists and the liberals that these officers were shot and all this. And typically I don't respond, but for this reason, it raised my eye. So I started responding. I'm going back and forth with this person, and I'm saying, like, listen, like, there's no need for that. If you're just going to offer condolences, like, but just stop saying it's because of liberal policies, because liberal policies don't have anything to do with this, right? So we're going back and forth, and my basic point was, there's a long supply chain that helps the guns get here, and we are not working with those things. We're not dealing with the fact that more guns are being sold. More guns are reported stolen. Now we know that some of those guns that are reported stolen are actually just been sold. People are doing straw purchases, and then they're making it up here to the iron pipeline to areas where there is gun control and more gun laws. And yes, they're getting their guns in their hands, but they're not manufacturing them here. And we're not looking at all of those things. We don't have a national database. We're not checking to see who has guns, tracking them. And I think we just got to stop looking at the end result and thinking that that's where you're going to solve the problem.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Kev. And Tim, to your point, I think that one of the things that we, you know what? Go ahead, Tim. I'm gonna save it. Go ahead.
I think building off of the point that you were just talking about, Kev, this is so multi-layered. And you think about it, we're old enough to remember, and this will be a stretch, but you flow with me. We're old enough to remember the mythical Officer Friendly, and and I'm saying it to say what an officer was supposed to represent. And based upon what an officer was supposed to represent, there's a level of respect and regard because it's supposed to represent safety and be in position for your betterment. This is not an indictment on policing as a whole, but that societal view has eroded and changed. And then when you add the access to guns, the just anger, the frustration. So when you see an officer now, I think a different set of emotions come to light, whether you are about to be aggressive towards them or not. That then potentially makes it easier for you to fire on them because of what you may be processing in your mind, your experiences, what news you choose to take in. Like, there's just so many issues that at this juncture, we don't even see them as the authority for our benefit as it was originally presented to us when we were young. We were young, like, hey, if you're afraid, if you're lost, what do? Find a police person.
Yeah.
We don't tell our children that same thing now.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're just having conversations. By no means are we trying to justify or even explain. But I just feel like it's saying it because people will take a soundbite
absolutely,
and run with it. So
that's why, that's why I paused a second, because this is a nuanced discussion, and there are things that are really complicated, and the lazy will try and misrepresent what you're saying. And it's a shame that you got to say, of course. I mean, I was more horrified by these guys' deaths than I have been in a long time. It really, really bothered me. I mean, bothered me to the, Tim, I started texting us immediately afterwards because it bothered me that much. But I think that what people don't understand is that when like you said, Tim, there's an overwhelming response when a police officer dies. And in a way, I think that's a bad thing, not because I don't value the police officer's life, that I also don't understand that it's an attack on an institution and society and not just the individual. I understand all of that. However, if we give greater value to one person's life, we devalue others.
Yeah.
So if when one person dies and I have 10,000 people there, and a 15-year-old dies and no one cares, society has made a judgment on what they value more. And then that leads to policies in society that end up where people are marginalized. And another thing, one quick point to your comment about the attitudes of police officers. I watch a lot of British television. I watch a lot of British TV shows about policing. And the way that police officers talk and treat citizens in Britain, it doesn't come with the, I have to be right all the time as a police officer. It doesn't come with the attitude of, I am the authority. You're going to submit to me, whether I legally have the law on my side or not. I have this badge and this gun. You are going to do what I say. And the attitude is one of service and respect. And I think whenever I watch American police officers, I rarely see that. I see authority and authority pushing their authority on the society, and people buck that. And I think
it's the, as KRS said, the overseer, officer, overseer.
Yes.
Case closed.
I mean, and Aaron, I totally agree with you. Where I had kind of their deaths definitely had an impact on me, particularly the youngest man, the 22-year-old, where in his application he wrote this essay or a letter paragraph about why he chose to become a police officer, and part of it was about him being harassed. Grew up here in not too far away from me here in Inwood, the tip of Manhattan, and how he was harassed. Him and his brother were pulled over and harassed by the police, and he felt like he wanted to join to be able to change the interactions between them. But I'm a numbers guy, and I know there's a narrative of how dangerous it is. It's open season on the police that I get from some of the officers. And I took a look at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, this museum in D.C. that deals with just memorial for all cops. Overall, last year, there was 458 fatalities, 62 by gun, 58 traffic-related, 37 other, and 301 to COVID. The average in the 90s was about 160 people per year were killed. Right now, this was like around 160. Now, there was an uptick. There's definitely been an uptick.
Oh, absolutely.
In the past couple of years. But, it's not as dangerous as we've ever seen it. The most dangerous year was 1930, 312. During the 20s, 253 people were killed. So, I mean, it's always been a dangerous profession. I believe that they've entered the profession knowing that it was dangerous. And obviously we want them to be safe, but it can't come at just changing laws, trying to be more restrictive, gun bail reform, going against gun bail reform, and all these other things, because these are not people that are shooting the police.
Yeah, that the young man who earlier this month a cop was shot in the Bronx, and he shot himself in the leg, and the bullet hit the ground and it shot the police officer in the leg, and he actually got bail. And Pat Lynch, the New York City police union head, went after the judge and said the judge should be, off the bench and all of that type of stuff. And I think we need to remember that bail is, you're not guilty of anything. Bail is for you to show up in court to stand the charge that the government is putting against you.
And mind you, I just want to interject for 1 second. And the kid was released on a $250,000 bond, so it wasn't that they didn't pay. It wasn't secure.
Yes, yeah, but this whole idea that I should punish you and put you in jail without a trial is absurd. And I don't know where we've gotten to this point in society where we think that if I arrest you, that you should be punished. Government hasn't proven anything. You are innocent. You are you are just like you and any other citizen that's not been charged with anything. All that should require. The whole purpose is for you to show up to stand charge. That's it.
So, what do you all think? We all grew up in New York, and we know that as it was stated in the introduction, this not only impacts New York, this will spread out and impact the nation. And I just heard that Mayor Adams was talking about reinstating a new version of the anti-crime unit, which is undercover officers. And there's a checkered history, to say the least, behind that. So what are some of your thoughts about that? That initial reaction, as well as some other things. He was talking about having more mental health professionals on the subways and the like. So
I don't see how you get police officers together, a large group of people driving around looking for crime that don't impact each other in a negative way, which means that they're going to just more aggressive in things. And it's kind of been their aggressive nature, which has led to some very unfortunate and deadly outcomes. The Amadou Diallo case, I don't know, was not the Sean Bell, but there was another case where, when they asked the dude, was he selling drugs where he could get weed? He started arguing with the dude like, "Yo, I don't sell weed." He wound up getting shot and killed. That was under Giuliani's reign. And I just think that you're going to put them together looking for crime, and you're going to run into problems.
And then the value that those units have when they get a gun off the street is considered like a big deal. So they're overly aggressive, like Kevin said. I'm concerned because they're not going to be looking for guns in Midtown Manhattan. And it's going to be disproportionate when the truth of the matter is guns are everywhere. And if I only look for dirt under my sofa, I'm going to find dirt under my sofa. That doesn't mean there isn't dirt in my kitchen. And I think that I'm concerned with Mayor Adams that some of this is politics. Some of this is, I'm a former captain in the New York Police Department. And I think this is going to be stop and frisk for that unit alone. And
I'm hoping that his experience will make him go at it different. I'm hoping that there would be some community partnering with these anti-crime units. Otherwise, this could go so bad. But I don't envy his position. You're 4 weeks in, literally, the day that we're recording the show, he's been mayor for 4 weeks, and I'm sure the response is you're going to have to do something. You're hearing that from the community. You're probably hearing it from inside of the police and law enforcement. But I just hope that we all see that there is a role that we can play and we should play in this solution. I hope we all get the opportunity to play that role. Like, this cannot be just the police are going to fix it and make us safe, because then that gives them that power and that aggressive, because they feel that it's totally on them. We all have a role to play in it. But the last thing I'll say, it was definitely a moving tribute.
Yes.
To see all of those officers lined up for that young man. And that's one thing that we got to understand. Yes, I understand the blue wall and the uniform. We still are talking about human lives. And
22 and 27.
22 and 27. And we look back and like, yo, we hadn't even started living at those ages yet. And
another 22-year-old who had to take somebody's life.
Yeah.
And the burden, he has to carry the burden of taking someone's life and the burden of his two brother officers passing.
That is an amazing, amazing point, and definitely sending prayers and thoughts to him. Because how do you close your eyes? Like how do you show up and put that uniform back on at that locker when you went in 3, came out 1, and you had to take a life?
Yeah.
So that is a lot. That is definitely a lot.
My last point is that we have to walk and chew gum. So we have to understand that our officers need to be safe, that as a society, we cannot tolerate people shooting at and killing cops. And we also have to protect the community. And police officers have to understand that. Not that this justifies anything, but the attitudes that you have and the way that the police are viewed in the community based upon your actions often has negative repercussions for you. Not just the community, but for you guys also.
No doubt. Reggie Jacks, what say you?
I say guns are the problem. It's, the guns, the availability of guns.
Yeah.
You continue to increase the availability. You put more guns into the street, more guns into society. You're going to have more incidents with guns. If we don't really take a real look at that way to regulate, to make it safer, we're going to continue to have these problems.
Yep.
So as I'm gonna throw a question in because we did talk about this being a series and we'll discuss it in different forms later. But there is definitely a danger with the availability of guns. But don't guns kind of amplify something that's already inside of you?
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? That this is just something
the dude was,
just to hang on for people to think about. That it's like, okay, because if there's violence in me, if there's something in me, then okay, the limited access to guns would I then do something else? So it's something.
Yeah, but it puts the battery in the back of a lot of people.
It puts the battery in the back of people who ain't really built for that.
Yes, and who would never do something
exactly
without their gun.
Like we all know people who have had a gun, gotten a gun, whether legally or either legal or illegally, and put themselves in situations because they have a gun on them, where you walk down a certain block where it's like, if you didn't have that gun, you'd stay away from that block. You feel like that's the block. And you just create these confrontations and things. And it happens across the board, both.
Yep. Your GPS changes when you got a gun. Your spidey sense is different when you have a gun. And definitely your diplomacy skills or lack thereof is a lot of times because you ain't got it on you. You learn how to talk and maneuver. Yeah. But, to Aaron's point, you're right. It does make you think that you're something, having a gun jack you up listening to rap music.
yeah, man. Yep.
Especially what's happening now, man. You know what I'm saying? So
you'd be like, what?
Yeah, but we definitely did. We know that this is an issue that really is paramount in our communities, and it's our intent to actually bring in voices from the community, including police officers themselves, as we discuss this. But we wanted to put it out there. We definitely open to your comments and your thoughts. And if you have insight and resources, we're not sitting here as 3 experts, but we're sitting here as 3 individuals who have a stake in our community. So,
and let us know if there's something you want to see on our, I guess it would be a police series where we kind of dig into what's going on with policing. So if there's something you'd like us to talk about or you want to see, let us know.
none of us have open warrants, right? I don't want us to get in trouble on
no.
Reggie Jacks.
I think I'm clear.
I'm about to say, hey, I was more sure about you. I had to check on Reggie Jacks. Something could have happened in school. It was third period. I get it.
He was a little slow on that answer.
Exactly. He had to think about it. And you notice I'm saying Reggie Jacks. I'm trying to stay with the alias.
Stay away from the government. Absolutely.
I got a letter from the government the other day. So
those of us who've been with Mike Sounds Nice for the year know that Reggie Jacks has had about 65 aliases in the first 3 months.
Exactly. And we've landed on Reggie Jacks because that is the one that's gotten cleared.
Oh, man.
The other aliases do not have passports. So there'll be no travel for the other aliases. So
they are all the others got burnt. He's down to
burner phone. Exactly. We got one burner phone left. There you go. So next up,
Super Bowl.
On the lighter side.
Yeah.
Yes, there's definitely a heavy topic there. But on the lighter side, let's talk some sports. Kind of.
Kind of.
The 2022 Super Bowl is the most watched show in TV. This year, we're going to have Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar performing at halftime. Between all of them, they got 44 Grammys. So why are they asking dancers to volunteer for 72 hours to prepare for and perform at the show? Is this acceptable? What are your thoughts about people not paying for your time?
Now, just to be clear, the NFL is asking, not the artists. Dre and them are not asking for dancers to volunteer for 72 hours.
True.
So,
well, I don't know. That's a little murky because Fatima Robinson is the choreographer. You know, I know the NFL didn't hire her. I'm sure that comes from Dre and that camp.
Sure, that wasn't.
Well, see, but she's getting paid because she's part of the production costs.
Yes,
the NFL covers the cost of producing the show. They just don't pay the artists.
No, that's true. And I wonder though if Fatima and people, you know, in charge would have said that these people need to be paid, what the NFL response would have been since they paid for the show. So I wonder where it lies, but it's the NFL production, so it's their responsibility.
I would agree. Yeah, ultimately is their brand. And their name, and their rationale is basically exponentially taking the concept of doing promo tours. You know, we were at Howard. Like this is the college tour. We were at Howard when labels had street teams and college teams, and you know, the leaders of the new school did the little promo tour. You get the little white cassettes, and it was about promotion. The NFL feels, hey, we are giving you the biggest stage on the globe to rock out. And there's actually data that shows how streaming and record sales have gone up exponentially for those artists, especially if the artist uses it like, hey, I got an album coming out. I'm going to perform at the Super Bowl. So
let's go over those, Tim, real quick.
No doubt.
J-Lo and Shakira streams surged by 335% and 230% respectively.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Timberlake skyrocketed by 534%. And there is another artist that was Lady Gaga was over 1,000%.
Yeah.
So and I don't know what Beyonce's numbers were, but you know, Beyonce basically introduced the album. The beginning of the album right there, and that was she really took off like a rocket ship from there. Like she was big before. And
I'm about to say the beehive was already orbited.
Yeah. But from there she started working her way to Mars. Like she was.
I'm about to say they went to another planet.
And Beyonce's smart in terms of, hey, I'm gonna get the most out of this
Yeah, I think it's also, and when we were preparing for the show, what I found interesting was that there was a time when the NFL was actually open to artists paying them
Yes,
to perform, and Katy Perry was in that position, and she was like, no, like, I'm not going to pay. Basically, I would want my artistry to kind of earn me that platform, because if you're paying for it, then that's almost comes across like payola and paying for your platinum status, which is another topic. But what do y'all think?
They tried it.
Well, like, what do you think about the artist? Again, Kevin, will direct this at you. Like, so you have the artist. Well, okay, you're not getting paid, but you have a mechanism to reap the benefits from that. What started this conversation as dancers who, for all intents and purposes, compared to the artists, are nameless.
Yes.
You're on the field just doing what you're doing. That same rationale doesn't hold weight.
I think that they want you to, it's like, appreciate that I'm giving you this opportunity to work rather than fairly being compensated. And I think that that's like just a major problem. I know it's built into the entertainment industry. It's built into some parts of communication. It's built into politics, where you have to page on Capitol Hill, which kind of gives you those things, and all these things. So it's not unique to just this. But there is a real problem where exposure doesn't pay the bills. And this exposure that you're giving them is not necessarily going to lead to anything. I think that sometimes, when you're talking about Katy Perry or people being willing to pay, the exposure for the artist, it works. It leads to, there's a real connection to financial gain. You would have to show me that there is a connection to financial gain, that this exposure would, for me to be able to volunteer for free. Now, I know nonetheless, a bunch of people will probably do it if they don't change the pay structure, because, you got to.
I mean, I think we got to be fair and be clear on this. There are dancers in the show that are paid.
Yes.
There are professional dancers in the show that are paid.
Right.
We're talking about people who are in the show that are basically serving at the crowd and in a club type scene, dancing.
Yeah, not on the stage.
So they don't have to know it. They don't have to know any choreography. They don't have to know anything. They just basically have to show up and have a good time. The issue has been the number of hours that it requires them. I think if they only had to show up for an hour, no one would say anything.
Like, you tell me 10, 12 hours, I'd be like, yeah, go do it.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm in the minority here. I'm okay with it. Fatima Robinson, we all know her, famous choreographer. Her first job, she did was free. And look what it got her. And if you could say, if you're in a local dance troupe in Compton, and you can say at some point that you worked the Super Bowl for your next dance show, I'm sure it helps. And I think this is something that I'm sure it helps. And just the experience of you having to work in that environment and be able to take direction and work within a large moving situation makes you valuable to another choreographer. However, like you said, Kev, this is not just, this situation. This is in LA, in Hollywood. This is done all the time. When you have crowds in Hollywood, now, we have people who do background. Those people who do background and have actual work to do, they get paid to do that.
Union members.
But if you're just standing there as a crowd, playing at somebody at a basketball scene or something, they don't pay those people.
But I think these individuals' roles are a little bit more than just being in the crowd cheering. Yeah. Like at the basketball game for the basketball scene.
If I need to be 72 hours, you must have me doing something.
Fatima Robinson said,
be doing something coordinated.
They basically have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
So then it shouldn't take 72 hours because the gum gets stale by then.
I mean,
and my foot hurts.
The amount of time
logistics
doesn't work
of
out.
where you are.
The amount of time does not work for what they're saying.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
But and also I think that we're in a moment, and whether this is just social capital and that the NFL over the past couple of years, the NFL since Kaepernick. Let's use that as kind of a benchmark. Fast forward, it had been taking some kind of black eyes in certain communities, and so which led to the partnering with Rock Nation.
Yeah.
So I think that the thought process of, hey, we're giving you this opportunity, you're going to get your streams and blah, 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 so that's why we're not paying you. But also, in this instance, you have a show that is also giving you, NFL, some things that have been chinks
Absolutely.
in your armor.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't feel like there's any space where you're recognizing that. Because you're not going to make me believe that somewhere behind closed doors, it was not strategic that you're going to be in LA and have pretty much a 100% hip hop Super Bowl performance. You've had hip hop performers. I don't recall a pure hip hop.
Yeah, that's Rock Nation. Yeah,
so
that's Rock
That's
Nation.
where I feel like, like you're getting great PR for free.
Yes, I mean, what is an appropriate payment then, Kev?
The numbers guy.
I
don't know if we're talking union. I don't know if this is
the number. I
don't know if we're talking union.
I'm sorry, Tim. I was slow. I was listening to him. I didn't.
That joke. Whatever.
Hey, every good crew got a numbers guy.
Yo, man.
I don't know if they're union people, if it's something that should be paid at scale, or if they have the reduced scale. I don't know if
Dr. Dre and them are getting scaled.
I understand that.
So they probably get like $900 for their.
I understand that.
Because they got to be paid.
Who?
Anybody's part of the union.
Performance.
Yeah.
But they have to get paid, so they get paid scale, which is like the bottom. Mm-hmm. It's like when you go on the Tonight Show, they get paid scale. So it's like.
But that would only be if the artists are in the union,
right?
Well, they all are. They're all in.
All of the artists are, but I'm talking for the dancers. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what type of dancers. If we're not talking about people that are in a union, to me, I have a problem with the hours. If you told me I had to volunteer 12 hours, 20 hours, I'd be like, I got you. For 72 hours, unless you got to be there 36 hours in advance, like I.
You don't think they're having fun, Kev? They're sitting around most of the time waiting. There's food for them to eat. They chilling, and then they work. They sit there for 9 hours, and they work for an hour.
I think what's coming to
time is
play.
Money, eh?
I would say what's coming to play. Time is money, and I'm a flow and be part numbers guy with our man Reggie Jacks. That oftentimes a artist or performer at that stage is probably working some type of hourly job with some level of flexibility for them to pursue their dream.
Yes.
And so it's a lot to be financially in a position to, because I think it was saying 9 days at 8 hours a day or 8 days at 9 hours a day, something like that.
Up to 9 hours a day.
Up to 9 hours a day. So I'm taking off. Or if I'm lucky, I'm working some type of job that may have a 24-hour shift. So then, like, I think it's more so that. Whereas if we were in a position, we've been blessed where we might line it up with our vacation time, or we could be in a position where it's like, yo, I'm just going to take off and do it. I think it's where they are in their stage that makes it more impactful. That yes, it could be an amazing time of your life, but then taking those days off could have repercussions to your budget for like the next 6 months, to the point where it dampens that experience.
I hear you, and I respect that point. But I push back to both of you guys. There's only one problem with all of this. Don't do it. It's volunteer. Don't do it. You don't. I mean, we're not forcing these people to go.
And you're right, because
if
for
you
those
do it,
for those who choose no, there'll be 10 people who will sign up and be like, "I'll do it."
Yeah, and if you don't do it, I mean, if you do it, you obviously are doing it, Tim. I'm taking off from work. I'm not doing my Uber as much. You know, I asked for hours off at my restaurant, whatever. I must see some value in it for my career for me to do it. I'm not doing it just because you see value in it. Just
because you see value in it doesn't mean you're going to get value out of it. I think it's highly unlikely. I really feel like people are trying to take advantage of them, or they are being taken advantage of.
I mean, Fatima Robinson worked free the first time it worked for her.
But she wasn't working at the Super Bowl
with 400 other people.
I got to find out what was her job that she did.
And all types of people did stuff. People did the whale room, volunteered, hung around in places to get on. We've all done those things.
We've all done those things. But I guess for me, it's like,
are you just saying because they got the money, they should pay them?
Yes, I feel like I still believe in business ethics.
Yes.
That, yes, they are not legally doing anything wrong. To your point, it is a call for volunteers. So don't volunteer and then complain about the situation. The situation, like, they didn't hide it from you. You knew what you were signing up for. So from that standpoint, because, I know you're very much a realist in that state, you decided it, you thought it out, at least you should have thought it out, and so you went ahead and did it, do your thing. I'm saying from an ethics standpoint.
Well, then you get no argument from me there. I'm not going to
which is fine, and that's where
because you're right.
Yeah, so it's just from an ethics standpoint, there's a level of sensitivity that should be there for just people's economics now in the midst of a pandemic. It should have always been there, but just in my own personal interactions with people now, like when I go to a restaurant, I will tip a little bit more than maybe I did in the past. And I was always up to the 20% because it's just like, you gave me great service. I don't know what your situation is. It's hard.
This is how you get paid.
This is how you get paid. And I want to just cover it because the next client may be a jerk. Like, that's just me and my own little, here's $10, $15 or what have you. And that's me just trying to be ethical. So I would feel that, so I just put that same principle into situations. But I agree, they're not doing anything wrong. It just, you could use this as an opportunity to do something that may be more right.
I just want to add on. I agree. If they can do it, I really have a problem with businesses or people or organizations. Sometimes they feel like they're entitled to your expertise, or just they're entitled to you to help promote their product and provide you nothing, or provide you with the word of exposure, when you can't define what that exposure is, what that will get you, if there's actually any leads that come from that. And that is just, it's an unfair thing. And businesses, multi-million corporate, they do this all the time.
Yeah.
But Kev, to some people, it's like life. Some people, it's not going to mean anything, that opportunity. And some people, if they're talented enough, that opportunity, that this experience will mean something to them. I mean, that's just a life thing. So I think for you to say that there's no value in it,
no,
or that because you can't quantify it,
and you can't tell me that something has value and then can't explain how that value will come across. Like, that's just not.
But that doesn't, just because I can't explain it doesn't make it.
Well, the question is there a value without a guarantee?
I think something to think about. If you ask me to provide, if you ask me to come to your conference and speak at your conference or do something at your conference, and I say, okay, well, you tell me you can't compensate me. And I may say, okay, well, you have this type of mailing list, you have these clients, you can put me in front of this client, you could do this thing, right? That is something where I'm bartering for value. There's something that has to be concrete. What is the concrete? Is
I think that's the best case scenario, Kev. But I also think that this thing that you can't quantify, Mr. Numbers, can still have value. Yeah. But let me just ask you this last question before we move on.
Before we slide on.
Do you think we're being a little heavy-handed because it's the NFL and the Super Bowl, and we're not giving them any quarter because we have issue with them already? Are we giving them the business because of who they are already?
Now, my hate for this is universal. Everybody could get the smoke.
I would be honest to say the smoke is a little thicker because it is the NFL and because of the climate that we are in. And in this instance, a good amount of those volunteers will probably be black and brown. I'm keeping it a buck.
I respect that.
I love your question, and I'm not going to sit here and say I would feel exactly the same way if it was another instance.
So let me ask you this.
Or another organization, rather. Sorry about that.
Kev, you never answered the question. What is appropriate compensation?
I don't know if it's scale. I don't know.
Market.
I don't know if it's minimum wage. I don't know if it's a straight fee. Like I just don't know what dancers get. And I get it. These are probably not, this ain't Alvin Ailey. These probably just people, just whatever, moving in stage in a club or something. I'm assuming. But then the 72 hours throws me off. I get it. Super Bowl day, you're going to be there probably 10, 12 hours, 8 hours. You have to be there early, get through security and all this other stuff.
Man, watching the game alone is payment. I mean, those are $1,000 tickets, man. And
it depends on where you get to watch the game from, or if you're there about the game. So that's why I said when we were putting together these topics, I had said depending on the team, we all love football.
Yeah, I mean,
if we were flexible enough, we would do it. Just to, if they said, "Hey,
we need an old man in the club,"
you can get a field pass. Then there's the value, but also to that point, because we all said we would do it because we love football.
Yeah.
So part of the value equation is actually subjective.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is that objective. There should be some type of wage. Yeah. For us, I'm like, it's a chance to be in LA, to be in SoFi, to see some people that we love, to be there for hip hop, to be able to say like I was there.
Yeah,
that's worth 72 hours.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
all right,
All right, so
we shall see.
We shall see.
So now moving on to the Robinson Report.
Yeah, what's giving you life?
Giving you life. Who wants to go first? Hey, you want to go?
No.
All right, that means me. Oh. All right, I'm going to shout out to, knowing the big beauty expert that I am, I'm going to give a shout out to this beauty line. What is it? Maybe Ami Collet. It's a line of makeup specifically for deeply melanated skin. So I'm not wearing it today, nor will I wear it tomorrow.
You need to touch up.
But I'm throwing it out there. If you know somebody that needs it, buy it for somebody. It's a gift. If you want to use it, put it out there. It's this young woman. Actually, I taught this young lady, known her for years. She graduated from Syracuse. She's been in the beauty industry for years. And then she designed her own line. She's 32 years old. Her name is Jada Jai Bai. Shout out to her.
Shout out.
She's been in Essence. She was recently in the New York Times style section. How she kind of created this line. She's got $1.6 million in angel investors, and it's something that's really moving. Like I said, Essence, Vogue, New York Times, Ami Collet. It's named after her mother, who's also, a wonderful woman. So please support the line. Put it out there.
You should have led with that part of the story.
Yeah.
It's like
no, but it's also brilliant because Black women need as many lines that deal with their skin tone as possible, because we all know the history.
Yeah.
And they've, Max Factor wasn't factoring black people in at all.
And And when we get our show on Netflix, we're going to need makeup too.
Exactly. So
that's what's up. But I'll go. Continuing in the spirit of honoring women, is actually what I'd like to say. My mother-in-law, my wife's mom, she turned me and her on to this 24-year-old young lady from the Bronx named Samara Joy, who is a jazz singer who sounds like Sarah Vaughan, Nancy Wilson.
Wow.
Like, her voice to be 24 is incredible. And she's the 2019 winner of the Sarah Vaughan International Jazz Vocal Competition. She actually has music on all platforms. She's working on her first album, but her website is Samara, SAMARA joy.com. But just her voice, when you close your eyes, you're thinking you're listening to jazz in the Renaissance era. And to be a 24-year-old from the Bronx, actually started doing jazz late, like kind of high school, and then she went to Fordham, and that's where she started doing musicals and got into jazz, and then went to one of the SUNY schools. So shout out to Samara Joy, dope young singer.
Okay, and we'll include the links for both young ladies.
Yep. on
our site and our social media. And the key term or the key phrase in the Robinson report is, what is giving us life? And so I have a very unique Robinson report because it just is giving me life, but it's not a typical selection. And my selection is my brand new 16-inch MacBook Pro computer. And I hate to say it is giving, bro, it is giving me life, man. It is, I'm a person, I have a podcast that I edit. I'm a photographer, filmmaking.
And I edit.
I edit. Yes. And I did, things were very difficult. And I just kept assuming that, my computer's slow, turn it off, turn it back on. And I really wasn't paying attention to how bad things were, because I was asking a lot of my computer and it just couldn't do it. But this new bad boy is so quick and so fast and making my life so easy that I'm telling you, if you out there and you are in the arts, you don't have to get a desktop. You can actually have a laptop and do everything you've been doing before. So I got 16-inch MacBook Pro with a Pro chip, and it's making my life fantastic.
I got to get one for Vanessa, so I may have to go that route. All right.
Yes.
No doubt. Nothing like the Robinson report that cost me money.
Hey.
While I'm volunteering to do the show. Y'all treat me like them dancers.
Yeah. If anybody has paid attention to the show, you'll notice that sometime my picture wasn't so hot. That was the old computer.
No,
new
baby,
one is,
I
things are crystal clear.
Do it. Can you do that? So
yeah.
Anyways, all right, brothers.
Another one
in our Khaled voice. Another one. So
yes.
Yo, have a great weekend or enjoy these games. Until next time, this is Tim signing off. My mic sounds nice.
This is Kev, aka Reggie Jacks. My mic sounds nice.
This is Aaron, aka the shovel digger of snow, signing off.
Oh, yo, you should put up some pictures, man. It's of snow, man.
Oh, I'll put up some pictures and a shovel in my hand and everything.
That'll work.
No doubt. Don't forget to like us. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube.
Don't forget to rate us on Apple,
Spotify.
Yeah.
Wherever you find podcasts.
Grab your friend's phone. Rate us on your friend's phone, too.
And
doubt.
the podcast has come to Facebook also. So we are, as we grow, we're increasing platforms. Facebook now has podcasts. So our podcast is now on Facebook.
Oh, didn't know that.
This will be the very first show.
That means I'm going to log on to Facebook. Fantastic.
All right. As you know, Aaron, our producer, will lead us, and we just follow because we had no knowledge.
Yes.
He's treating us like the NFL.
I apologize.
All right, y'all.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.